Hello, Curiosity and Curious Cuties. I know it's been a minute since we have released an episode. If you've kept up with our personal lives, you know things have been kind of crazy. The TTC journey has definitely taken its toll, and we just really needed to take a little step back. But in the interim, we did actually have some amazing conversations and have several episodes that are ready to go, especially right now. I know it's the holiday season, so some of you may be looking to kind of get some content just ready to go for all those long trips and maybe escapes from family. So we have just that for you. And in this episode that you are listening to right now, I sit down with Amanda and Jessica, two physician associates whose friendship began with a missed connections post in a Crunchy Mama co-op group. So what started as a serendipitous online interaction has evolved into a shared mission to redefine healthcare. They share their journey of pursuing integrative medicine, navigating cross-country moves, raising families, and ultimately founding their dream virtual practice. So keep listening as we dive into their passion for holistic healing, the power of community, and the challenges and triumphs of balancing their careers with motherhood. This is a story of resilience, connection, and unwavering commitment to their calling. I want you guys to introduce yourselves, actually, because I want them to hear your voices so they can recognize who is who and you guys answer your questions. So go ahead and just introduce yourselves real quick.
Yeah, Amanda Queen. I'm a PA, and I opened a integrative medical practice with my friend Jessica this year.
Amazing.
And I'm Jessica Meyers. I'm also a PA, and this practice has been a dream. Amanda and I have talked about it on and off for
years.
Okay.
Probably 8 years.
Wow.
Many
or
years.
so.
Yeah.
And so it's here and we're seeing patients. It's Revival Integrative Health. And we are just so honored to be able to bring our vision of what healthcare should be to people across 10 states.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
10 states.
Yes.
Because it's digital, right?
Virtual, yeah.
Virtual,
We're entirely virtual.
Okay, that's amazing. So do you guys get to do you have an office or is it you're just from home?
Home.
It's called Bonus Room.
Yeah.
Bonus room. Mommy's office. Awesome. Okay, I love that. And you're able to be home with your kids, and I'm sure that comes with, it's a blessing and also probably hard with balancing everything at times.
Absolutely. But I mean, it's truly the dream to be able to this is when I want to work.
Yep.
This is the best time for me to work. This is when I want to be with my kids.
Yeah.
That part's really cool.
And you get to set your own hours and schedule. And
Yes.
Okay.
We both also homeschool.
Okay. Busy ladies. Okay. And go ahead and just for the listeners, go ahead and say your kids' ages and how many you have, and so they can get a grasp of what it is you guys all do.
Okay. This is Amanda. I have an 11-year-old, Zula, and I have
what a cute name.
Oh, thank you. It was my husband's great grandma's name. So it was a family name.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I just really liked it.
Yeah.
Poppy is 6, and then Forrest is 2, but his birthday is tomorrow, so he's almost 3.
Okay, that's adorable. I love all those names, by the way. All great.
Oh, thank you.
I have a 10-year-old son, Mason.
Right, great.
A 7-year-old daughter, Emery. And then a little baby, Rhett. And he's about to turn 1.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you guys have your hands full, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Okay. So I know we do actually have some moms who listen to this podcast, actually lots of mothers who listen to the podcast. And so we're going to get into how you balance everything as well. Just in case, they can take a couple advice from you guys. So, all right, I want to go back. Can you guys take us back to the moment that you first connected in the Crunchy Mama co-op group, and then what drew you to each other, and how did that initial conversation unfold?
It's kind of a funny story.
Okay.
So I was working at this really big multi-specialty practice, and I was just kind of burnt out on the way medicine happened in such a big group. There's not much time to really dig into what's going on. And I knew there had to be a better way.
Yeah.
My oldest was pretty young. We were in some baby wearing groups, and then this spin-off group from all of the baby wearing stuff was I guess like healthy product group buying.
Okay.
Like a co-op buying group.
Okay.
Yeah. Because back then you couldn't just like go into any store and get, healthy, gluten-free, local products like you can today.
Okay.
That's really exploded. So we're in this group, and somehow I remembered seeing someone's name pop up in that group. And you know how it says like your education or what you're doing on Facebook profiles and stuff. I knew I had seen someone who had gone through this integrative medicine fellowship through the University of Arizona. And I was super intrigued.
Yeah.
Because it brought in a lot of the things that I just passionately felt were missing from my practice. So I didn't know who it was I had seen that with. So I
scouring this Facebook group.
Yeah. In a total like missed connections sort of post.
Yeah.
I just went in the group and said, hey, one of you, I know.
That is so funny. You're like, I'm going fishing right now, but I will find this girl.
Yes. I was like, who went through an integrative medicine fellowship and is a PA?
Yeah.
We need to talk.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. And then you were like, okay.
So I saw that and I was like, I mean, it must be me. Like no one else, I'm sure nobody else here is like, must be me. So yeah.
And it was. And it turned out we lived like 2 miles away from each other.
Oh my gosh.
In California.
Yes.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Serendipitous for sure.
Yeah. And so that kind of was a turning point in my own professional growth as well, in that I now had someone who had gone through an integrative fellowship and kind of knew the ropes on different educational opportunities for post-grad education to be, a really great healthcare provider with that holistic, well-rounded approach.
Yeah.
That was missing. So
when you saw the post, obviously you're like, I think that's me. That's probably me. Like what other like thoughts went through your mind? Were you like, why does she want to find me? Like what's going on?
I mean, I figured like somebody wants to like see someone like that as a provider. That was my first thought.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't really work. Like I mostly stay home with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, these are my credentials, but yeah.
But I don't really do anything. But yeah, I had, at that time, I worked like a tiny little bit, like here and there. So, I mean, I got out of school in like 2007.
Okay.
And I went to, first I did primary care for just a little bit and I hated it.
Okay.
It's like the worst job ever. I think I lasted like 8 months maybe.
What did you hate most about it?
Here's what I hated. I hated that I refilled stacks and stacks of prescriptions for people that didn't care about themselves or their health. And it's like I cared more about their wellness than they did.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting.
Yeah.
And it was so much paperwork.
Yeah.
And it was like, I made the biggest mistake. Like, I don't want to be a PA. I don't like, clearly I did everything wrong. This is like not what I want.
Yeah.
And so then I kind of pivoted and I went to emergency medicine.
Okay.
And I did that for several years. I did pediatric emergency medicine, which I really loved. Like, I loved emergency medicine and especially the peds part.
Okay.
Because
that's special.
Yeah, it's a total specialty.
That takes a special person to do that. Both my parents were in the medical field, by the way.
Okay.
And they did not enjoy doing like working with kids stuff because they didn't like working with the parents. That was like the hardest thing for them.
I liked pediatrics a lot because kids they're generally honest.
Yeah.
Like you get what you see. And they can get very, very sick, but they can turn around so quickly. Yeah. And so there's a lot of like instant gratification. Yeah. I mean, to be quite honest, like it's like you can really like help and fix people. Yeah. Which is different than the adult world of medicine,
Right.
because like there's not a lot of fixing happening there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it's like.
Yeah.
So I did that, but I knew that like I knew I didn't want to do that forever.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just naturally was always kind of interested in more of like a holistic approach.
Okay.
And
were you always like that, or did you kind of find that you were that way like when you were in medicine?
no, I mean, even when I was in school, I was like the weird one.
Okay.
You know, I was like,
I was the weird one
like,
also.
Okay. The weird people
like,
find each other, right?
But wait, why are we prescribing drugs before we try other things first? Like,
right.
You know,
like what's actually wrong here?
Yeah.
Like what's the root cause? Like
Yes.
what's going on? Right.
yes. So I always kind of had that, like, that was my preference.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I lived, this is before I had kids, I lived in Arizona.
Okay.
And so I was like familiar with this fellowship. I don't even know exactly where I first learned of it.
Okay.
It was kind of just like, you know, because you live somewhere, you're like kind of knowledgeable
Yeah,
about
you
something.
kind of know about it.
And
Yeah.
so like I kind of knew like someday I want to do that. And then like a couple years later, I just like on a whim kind of like decided to apply and like start that process then.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of just led me down like a different path.
Yeah.
And my initial plan was that I would do that, you know, when I was done, burnout, tired of emergency medicine, that I would just, you know, pivot and do something more holistic like that. But then we started having kids.
Mhm.
Well, and you know, I should backtrack actually, and this kind of goes to our previous conversation. Like, having children was like I think a big part of that shift also.
Mm-hmm.
Like we tried for about 2 years to have kids before I got pregnant the first time.
Okay.
And I was like, I knew that for me personally, I wasn't interested in like IVF and fertility and things like that. Totally in support of women that is right for them. It just like did not feel right to me. So I ended up seeing a Chinese medical doctor.
Okay.
Like along the same time that I was doing my fellowship.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you've ever had like acupuncture or
I
like
have had
seen
acupuncture. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh. There's like
Yeah.
a place here in Nashville that does acupuncture in Circle. Have you ever been there?
No, I saw someone in Green Hills when I was pregnant here.
Okay. Okay. I've done it like a couple times, but not often. But yes, it is an interesting experience.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So anyway, like 2 years, couldn't get pregnant, like doing all the things.
Yeah.
And I saw this fertility specialist that practiced Chinese medicine, and she like instantly changed my cycle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Were your cycles a little all over the place?
No,
Like,
they were just like really light.
oh, okay. Okay.
But she like my like next cycle with her like changed my cycle.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then the cycle after that, I got pregnant.
Wow. Maybe I need to fly out.
I mean, there is someone here you can see.
No, of course.
But like she was definitely like special, like top of the line. Like it was like her true specialty, like built a whole practice on this, had studied all over the world about this. So
that's awesome.
and I was just really lucky to live somewhere that, you know,
Have
she was
that.
down the road.
Yeah.
In Arizona. So
your health journey then, like to get pregnant and all that probably opened up your eyes to like, okay, what's holistic? What's like my body really needing right now?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. Do you have like a similar experience, or how was like
so similar?
holistic? Okay.
So
Tell
similar.
us.
So I had started a herbal medicine program.
Okay.
Because that felt like, you know, what was missing in medical care for me. I'm like, you know, I need to connect with, you know, the earth and everything that we have in the natural world to assist our health. And that really kind of completely changed my approach to medicine. And I actually have a very similar story to Amanda in that when we were trying to conceive our second, I had a lot of hormone problems that I went to the OB near me that was known for being definitely more holistic. But he literally said, I don't know, you should try acupuncture.
Okay.
As far as like how to fix my my hormones and my cycle issues in order to get pregnant.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. Okay.
Well, if
You
he's
say
telling me.
you don't know and I should try acupuncture. Maybe I should try acupuncture.
Yeah.
And literally after maybe my first or second session, I was no longer having mid-cycle bleeding that I was
Wow.
having
Okay.
every month for months
Oh
before.
my gosh. Wow.
And it just opened my eyes so much. And it was a traditional Chinese medicine doctor who did acupuncture and worked with traditional Chinese herbs.
Did you see Max Sklar?
No, Merritt Jones. She's in San Diego.
Yeah.
Okay.
But wonderful fertility specialist and PCOS acupuncturist.
Cool.
So through working with her on my own health, I learned about a few more herbs, and that really just propelled me into my herbal studies because I saw how quickly my body completely shifted in just a couple months.
Yeah.
Of using herbal remedies and acupuncture. And if we can do all of that with something low cost, super safe, and lots of evidence to back up its benefits, why are we not using these things so much more? Why are we just rushing to the big, expensive, potentially harmful medications and treatments? There's so many steps between doing nothing and doing everything.
Yeah.
That it feels like are getting skipped. And that's where I feel like herbal medicine and an integrative functional approach really thrives. There's a reason for emergency medical care. There's a reason for surgery. But it doesn't have to be do nothing or do the big thing.
Right. Okay. I love that. Thank you for sharing your stories in that way. And as like the listeners, by the way, they're called the Curious Cuties. So as the cuties know, like I've been on my trying to conceive era, and I've done acupuncture a couple times. It makes me want to go again for sure. But yeah, I use like this herbal tincture my friend Maddie Miles made. It's called Peace Love Hormones. Anyway, it's amazing. Like she's an incredible like naturopath, and like she's like constantly taking all these different like courses, and anyway, getting all these certifications. But anyway, that's amazing. I'm definitely, although I was raised by medical people who are in the medical field, both of my parents are crunchy, you know, they more
so lucky
on that. Yeah. So more my mom, but also my dad is as well. So I'm Indigenous and my dad is Indigenous. So I think because of that, it definitely, our whole family has been like about the earth and nature like my whole life. And so my mom, although she wasn't, once she had kids, she stopped working, but she was a nurse, and she was always interested in using like, you know, different like essential oils. I mean, to this day, like she's still that lady.
I love it.
And herbal, like just herbal tinctures, and there's always, but we have both, you know, our medicine cabinet, we've got all your traditional medicines, and then next to all of them is also like the alternatives. So it's like you get to choose. And so yeah, I feel lucky in that. And just naturally that's who I am as a person too. Like I want to know the root cause of things. And that obviously when you are somebody who's interested in the root, or you're curious about like why things are happening, instead of just like kind of putting a Band-Aid on it, you're going to find yourself discovering plants and discovering, you know, the natural ways to do things. And again, being Indigenous and having traditional ways of approaching, not just like ailments, but also different like seasons of your life and things like that. It's, I've kind of been that middle of the road type of person, being able to kind of like see the good in both sides of medicine, if you will. I'm grateful that you guys also had a similar experience of kind of coming to, because we need more people who have the knowledge of both, right? That's how I think we progress, is being able to like make that bridge.
Absolutely. My mentor is also Indigenous as well.
Amazing.
And I just think the connection and beauty she brings and how she talks about plants and how she approaches just any sort of medical issue. It's just something completely different than can even be taught like in medical school. There's a respect for the earth that I think many are missing.
Yeah. And is your mentor in California or?
She's in New Mexico.
Okay. Amazing.
Dr. Tirona Lodog.
Okay.
She has many books. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She was counsel to the White House on
that's awesome.
natural products.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever see that USP label on supplements.
Yeah.
She's the president of that.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's amazing.
She's so far reaching in what she has done and how she's improved health and the acceptance and safety of botanical based supplements. She's a powerhouse and just the sweetest woman that you'll ever meet.
Yeah. Do you know what her tribe is?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Is she English Cherokee, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
Where we are now and where I grew up in North Carolina, Cherokee is actually the predominant tribe. I'm Ojibwe. My reservation's actually in Canada. So a lot, my family, my dad is like from the area. He grew up in Detroit, but he spent every summer in Canada with his grandparents. And anyway, so people always assume that like I'm Cherokee as well, just because being Indigenous and being around here, that's like what most people who are Indigenous are. But anyway, that's interesting. So I'm really like, that's great. Like, I love that because I feel like the Indigenous people need to be in places of power when it comes to how we utilize and work with the earth and plants. And so that makes me happy to hear that actually.
Yeah, it's really special that that's been able to guide my education.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you have a mentor as well? Does everyone have a mentor?
So Trini was actually the assistant director of my fellowship too. So I also trained with her.
Okay, so mentored you as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so I want to know, after attending the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine conference together, how did you decide to like turn your shared vision into reality, and what was like that aha moment for you guys that like sparked the idea for the virtual practice?
I don't know where to begin.
I don't know if there's like an exactly aha moment because over such a long period of time, we talked about this in so many ways and so many possibilities, trying to figure out, is it best to do things in person or virtually?
Yeah.
And should we do our own thing? Should we join another practice? And there's so many different flavors, I guess, of doing integrative functional medicine these days. We probably talked about what it would look like to do every single one of those flavors.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm sure.
I
you
think
said over
ultimately
8 years too, right?
Like,
definitely at least.
Well, so at the time, like we both lived in California, and then our family moved here in 2020.
Okay.
Like right at the height of the pandemic.
Okay.
Crazy, like to look back on and like think of like just how wild that was and like what were we thinking? But it all worked out, so it's okay.
And were you here in 2020 by that point?
No. So my family, we had moved up into a mountain town north of LA, still in California.
Okay.
We had been talking about, are we leaving California? Are we staying here? We weren't sure. And so this was kind of the closest thing to leaving California while still being in California.
Okay.
And so we did that. We had, like a hobby farm for almost 5 years, but we were pretty rural.
Yeah.
And after a while, we realized this is a magical way to raise our children as they're young, but we're not so sure that we want to raise them here as teenagers.
Okay. Why?
You were like very remote.
We were remote.
Yeah. Okay. So you feel like they needed like
the type of remote where there's not a whole lot of things to keep them busy that are legal.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
So
That's funny.
we also knew that homes where we were, being rural, sometimes they would sit on the market a really long time.
Okay.
So then when COVID hit, everyone from LA wanted to leave the city and were just snatching up properties like ours. And so instead of us having to wait 6 to 12 months with our house on the market in order to sell it, we knew if we're not staying here forever, this is probably the time to sell.
Yeah.
And so in 3 days, it was sold.
3 days?
3 days.
Same with our house.
Yeah.
I don't even think it made it to the third day.
Gosh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. What a time.
Because we were close enough to LA that if you were working in LA, you could go into the office.
It's like an
about
ideal
once or
situation.
twice a week. Yeah. So,
but maybe not for teenagers. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe not for teenagers. And so we're like, okay, we're pretty clear that we're not sticking around in California forever. And we want to make sure that we can put our roots down when our children are young enough to feel like where we live is
Grounded.
their home.
Yeah, totally. Okay, amazing. Sorry, I'm just always interested in people's like migrations and like why they chose to move around. Like even in where we are right now, like we own this home, but it's not our forever home. So we're in the middle of deciding like, okay, what's our next step? You know, do we keep the home, rent the home? Go. It's like I'm always interested in people's movements. And as we were even talking, like hearing you guys come to a lot of your kind of aha moments in and of themselves while you're trying to conceive, like I feel like there's so much of a becoming more than just like becoming a mother, but just like your whole life, you really reanalyze so much of what's going on. And I know like you had another baby like soon after, like in 2020. And it's just, I know that it all just leads itself to a lot of change and a lot of like, okay, what really is important here? And like, what am I wanting to focus the next 10 years? And you kind of have to think in increments because like even you were saying, like, this is a great home for little kids, but they're going to grow up someday. And I need to think about like the next step. So I'm just always curious and like intrigued for when you got here, how you're liking it here. Are you gonna move around or is this like home for sure?
We love it here.
Yeah. And you're in Leapers Fork. Like
we're just past Leapers Fork. Yeah. So, and we are like, we're a little bit out, but not so far. Like it's easy to go
anywhere.
You know, yeah. Well, I don't feel isolated.
Yeah, that's good.
But we have like some space and a little bit of land.
That's nice.
And yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah,
really nice.
That's great. And you live, where do you live around in Nashville?
So we're in Spring Hill.
Okay. How do you like Spring Hill?
You know, it was a good place for us to land when we first moved here. Okay. It really, I think, was great for us getting connected and feeling like we had community.
Okay, that's
here.
Good.
It was great for us being close to kids' stuff where they get to make friends. I don't think the house that we're in is our forever home.
Totally.
But it's certainly wonderful for now and we're making it ours. And, you know, one of the first things that we did when we moved there was make a big garden. And so that's kind of like the stamp of this is ours. You know, we have this big garden that we can tend to and play around with the herbs and everything. So
that's awesome.
we at least have enough space to do that.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. Sorry, that was like such a little tangent, but it always just makes me like super curious. So like kind of going back to y'all's kind of journey and you said there was multiple aha moments throughout the years, and have there been like any challenges specifically that you have faced while building the practice and like especially through the cross country moves and having babies and busy schedules? Like what's been like kind of your challenges?
I mean, I think the timing kind of just worked out because like we were in a place where like we'd been here for a few years. You'd been here a couple of years. Like my youngest was like getting old enough that like, you know, it's not as intense as like baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were willing to build this even though Rhett was tiny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a big consulting project for a few years that was just coming to completion.
Okay.
And so that timing made it really easy to dream about what we could do together.
I love that. And you guys had been talking about different iterations over the years.
Yeah.
And kind of when you talk things out, you kind of like live it out too. Like you're kind of like, you talk it out enough to you're like, oh, we've already run into this problem before we've even like kind of like fleshed it out fully, like in real life, which is good, which is is why communication and like revisiting this like vision over and over again is like so important. And you guys finally, you like pulled the trigger and you're like, let's do this thing.
Well, I love that you just like bring up like the intentionality of it, because like, I think that as we created this, like we put a lot of like, if we can create this, like what exactly do we want it to look like?
Right.
Like we don't, to do integrative and functional medicine, we don't need to be able to touch you, you know, and like examine you in the way that, you know, your primary care does, for example. Is it nice to see people in person? Like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it allows us to serve more people in a kind of better and different way to be able to keep our practice just virtual. And it allows us to like take care of our families.
Right. Yeah.
We want to.
So how do people like find you? Do they just, is it through like social media, website? Like if they're not around here, or is it just like word of mouth? People are just telling.
All of those things.
Yeah. So if somebody lives here though, they still are virtual. It's there's no aspect to it that's in person, correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what kind of people, like, who are you seeing? What kind of like things are you helping people through? Is there like anything specific that's kind of your main like demographic, or is it kind of everything?
Primarily women.
Okay.
And definitely like the, you know, pre-conception to postpartum.
Okay.
Postpartum's forever.
Yeah.
But that population's definitely like, that's our first love.
Okay.
Always.
Cool.
Yeah. But women in general, you know, hormones, thyroid health, just overall wellness.
Cool.
Our practice does also, we will see men. And on kind of a case-by-case basis, we will see children.
Okay.
But primarily just women's health.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And that, I mean, that's kind of y'all's passion anyway, from
sure.
what the sounds of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think really having a chance to connect with women in that preconception time, ideally like 6 months before they're planning on trying, it's such a huge missed opportunity to help women have a healthier pregnancy, less pregnancy symptoms, healthier babies. And so we're just really passionate about getting people off on the right track, because, you know, like many pregnancy symptoms can be helped by just repleting some nutrient that you are maybe just a little bit suboptimal in.
Yeah. So do you order labs?
We'll order labs,
Okay.
both the regular stuff that you might get at like a Quest or a LabCorp that, you know, any provider that you see can order. We also work with functional medicine panels.
Okay.
We do in-depth nutrient panels that it's not just looking at how much of a nutrient is in your body, but how well are you assimilating it into your cell? Because if you have a nutrient just floating around in your bloodstream, but it can't get into the cell that needs to use it, it's worthless.
Right. Right.
So the ability to look at stuff like that is just amazing, phenomenal. We can look at toxin levels. There's certain toxins that we know are going to transfer to a baby.
Yeah.
In huge amounts through pregnancy, through breastfeeding as well. And so if we're able to capture these women in that preconception time, we can work with them to help reduce the body load of different environmental toxins, help to really, really fill their bodies up with all the nutrients that they need, because your body loves you, but it loves that baby more. And it's going to give that baby everything that it needs first. And that goes from pregnancy and through nursing as well. And so if we fill that mama's cup up, they're going to have a much easier time. We don't have to have a postpartum period that you just feel terrible the entire time because you're so depleted. It's a difficult, extremely nutrient intense process to create life from your body.
Yeah, totally.
It's about time we start, treating women like they're doing this miracle that they are.
Yeah.
And it starts with giving their body the basic building blocks that they need in order to feel well themselves and provide for their child.
That's amazing. So when a woman like comes to you, say she's in her preconceived like era, then is there like a follow-up when she is pregnant or afterwards? Like how often are you doing labs?
Before that?
Yeah.
Because so ideally you want to optimize like hormonal, cycles, like what's your cycle look like? And sometimes there's some like tweaking that needs to happen there. Not only just to like support create the pregnancy and support the pregnancy, but so that, you just minimize risk throughout that pregnancy. Baby has the best outcome. Mom and baby have the best birth experience. And then also looking at, like Jessica mentioned, nutrient panels. We're all so unique and different, and we each have, unique requirements.
Yeah.
So while we all need a certain amount of, this specific vitamin, some of us actually need quite a bit more because we don't absorb that well.
Right.
And we don't, we just need more.
Yeah.
So there's just these individual variances that typical Western medicine is not equipped to, address.
Right.
It doesn't even exist in Western medicine.
No.
It's like.
So the people who are like coming to you, like, do you find that it's a lot of like last chance, or they're like, no, I wanted to be here from the get-go? Like what kind of stories are people like kind of bringing into working with you guys?
I think a lot of times there's women that just feel like they're not being seen in the providers that they have been seeing forever. They might go in and ask to get some labs done because they just aren't feeling right. Maybe they're having a lot of headaches and they're exhausted and they feel like they're emotional all the time. And they're just being offered an antidepressant or something like that. And the labs come back and they're just within the normal ranges. And so they're told, oh, you're fine.
Right.
Like there's nothing physiologically that we can do to support you. And that can't be further from the truth.
Right.
Because just because you're within this range, it's based on a selection of everybody that has had that lab done. And if you fall within like this number of standard deviations from the average, you're told you're normal.
Yeah.
But look around at our population. Like, do you want your normal to be compared to all the unhealthy people? No,
definitely not.
So there's a big, big difference between what is a normal lab range and what is optimal.
Yeah.
And then you throw in what is optimal for you.
That's amazing.
Because due to genetics, your dietary intake, your environmental exposures, all of those things can play a role with you having an increased need, a more difficult time assimilating a nutrient, maybe something about your genetics, your diet, or environment makes you lose a certain nutrient in a higher quantity. So you kind of have to look at this big, broader picture.
Yeah.
So yes, most women, they've asked for help and they're not getting it.
Yeah.
Some of the clients that we're seeing have seen everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen primary care. They've seen multiple specialists. They've seen other, wellness focused type clinics
Mm-hmm.
and not had anyone talk to them about exactly what they're eating
Yeah.
every day for multiple days to have like a true picture of like, what's your nutrient intake like?
Yeah.
And I think, on some level, like that's just inexcusable. Like we have to do better in
Mm-hmm.
general
Yeah.
as medical providers,
Yeah.
on asking, the right questions.
Well, I find that a lot of medical providers, and there's a lot of things that like, just because of the person I am, how I grew up, like, I feel like I know nutrition and things like that more than some doctors that I've seen.
That's probably
you
true.
probably do.
And I took both my dad and my brother, who's going through medical school. They're like, yeah, we took like one course on nutrition.
Correct.
It's like,
Yeah.
what? I mean, mostly they're scientists, and they're like, obviously my dad and my brother have, I would say, like better hearts and minds than maybe some doctors going into it, just because of, again, how we grew up. But what they're like being offered in their learning is, it's fascinating. I'm like, oh, okay. So what we're taught doctors act or are like nutritionists or people who know like health, and it's not exactly that way a lot of the time. Even I feel like just even a couple of years ago, you could go into the doctor and be like, do you think if I ate this less or this more or whatever, they'd be like, oh, like what you eat has nothing to do.
They will tell you it does not matter.
Yeah, it just like has nothing to do
Uh-huh.
with that. Like whatever. I'm like, that's crazy, because that's literally what you're like fueling yourself with. It's truly,
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know how it's not thought of like that. I'm like, that is it's the gas you're putting into the tank. Like, how is that not affecting how everything functions?
We
Right.
couldn't agree more.
If you don't have the basic building blocks to make hormones and neurotransmitters and skin cells and hair and everything in your body, if you don't have the ingredients for the recipe,
Right.
like, I'm sorry, like if you don't have chocolate chips, you're not getting chocolate chip cookies.
It's so true. Yeah, it is. It's so much like that. And I'm just like, yeah. So that's why it's a passion of mine. It's why I reached out to you guys. Like, I just love what you guys do. I assume though that when people are coming to you as well, it's not backed like by insurance. Like people can't be like, oh, it's why I even thought like, is this people's last resort? Because they're like, let me look at the list of things that my health insurance will help pay for. And unfortunately, it's not. Like integrative medicine is not on the list. You won't find it anywhere, but it's the thing that is going to get people the most answers. So you have to like make that decision of being like, okay, well, like let's save up because our health is worth it. But it's like that conflict of what we were even taught of like what medicine is, what health is, and where it's worth spending our time, money, and energy. Have you found like with your patients, the clients that like talk to you guys, that's like almost like an emotional block for them and like coming into it?
So one of the themes that came up in all our years of dreaming about this practice was that it needed to be financially responsible for the people that need this kind of help. There needs to be a way for more people to access this while us still being able to pay our overhead and pay ourselves.
Yep.
The unfortunate reality is that starting a medical practice it's not free.
No.
Right. Of course.
Right. And so we really wanted to make sure that we were able to make that happen.
Yeah.
One of the ways that you can do that is for people that have a PPO insurance plan. They often can submit receipts from medical visits to their insurance company and get a check back in the mail.
Okay.
And I cannot tell you, the number of people that they say, oh, such and such provider always gave me super bills, but I didn't know what they were for. I didn't know I could get money back.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. It's money sitting there
Yeah.
that they could have gotten back from what they invested in their health.
Yep.
So we are big on educating people how to get the most out of whatever insurance plan you have, even though we are not contracted or working with any insurance companies.
Yeah.
Most like Quest, LabCorp Labs, with a PPO insurance plan, you can have your insurance plan completely pay for those labs.
That's amazing.
We have been working tirelessly for months in order to get contracts with labs to offer very, very low cost cash-based labs. Okay, so soapbox moment. This is the problem with our health system. Okay,
Right here. You ready?
Okay, this is the problem I'm about to tell you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here for it.
I can log into Quest to order some labs for you. And I'll put together this panel. And let's say to order it through Quest, it's $4,000 for like a comprehensive physical. Okay. I could then go to a third-party ordering platform and get the exact same labs that you go to a Quest location to have them draw. And then they process it in the Quest lab. And it's $700. But then if you are lucky enough to have a colleague or you just stumble upon this basically secret society of group ordering platforms, you can get a contract to have that exact same panel still drawn in a Quest service center and processed by Quest in their labs. And it comes down to like $300 something.
That's crazy.
Okay. It's all drawn and processed at Quest. Yet one person might be paying $4,000 and one person might be paying $300.
That's wild.
Same insurance, same order, same.
So then do you then how does that work for you guys when you...
We don't profit off labs at all. We are this close to securing discounted lab pricing for all of our patients.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. So
love that.
So that would be that secret society version of lab ordering. Oh my goodness. They make you jump through a whole bunch of hoops. But because it was so important for us to be able to give our patients access to what they need, we knew we had to find a better way. And you know what? None of the insurances are going to cover the cost of the functional medicine panels.
No, of
That's
course
like
not.
gut testing, the advanced nutrient testing. But there is so much more that you can pull out of the traditional labs that is typically missed. You can still find out about how well you are assimilating certain nutrients. You can still find out about your adrenal health and if you're having cortisol issues or if you're having digestive issues, just by doing something simple like a complete metabolic panel, which typically is like $17 to get done. And you can pull out so much information that your standard medical provider just isn't trained to understand.
So just because of the way you can read it, basically, is what you're saying? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Not just like looking at it and saying, oh, it's a normal range. Great. Okay. Move on.
It's just a little bit off. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you see, so does
That's Western medicine, right?
Does it come back like, I don't know, because I've seen like how I've received it and it's like, yeah, it'll just show me the number and then what my number is, like the the average. So is that different than what you're seeing back? Like, are you seeing
we take those exact same results, like that exact same thing. But if you are trained to know what to pull out of it, what numbers do you have to look at in ratio with something else? Or what nutrients are associated with, a slight elevation or decrease in certain things. You can pull out so much additional information.
And their story as well. Like you're talking to them, you're like, oh, okay, you're saying you're exhausted all the time. Well, that makes sense because whatever, like you're able to actually put 2 and 2 together rather than separating the symptoms and the labs. Like those are, a lot of times in Western medicine, it's like, those are separate things. It's like, okay, you can tell me all the things all you want and I'll talk to you about it in person. But then when you get the labs, like that's for you to just basically, if you're in the green, you're in the green and that's it.
So all this to say, we can order the traditional labs at a Quest location and get discount pricing on it.
Cool.
Or we can do functional labs and we never profit off of any labs. I don't care what your financial ability is and what route we have to go. We are going to pull as much information out of that data as is humanly possible. And we're going to meet you where you're at with that.
So traditionally, do doctors make money off of people getting labs?
In some practices.
Some practices, yes. Some states, there are laws against that.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a lot of practices that mark up labs, especially like some of the functional medicine testing panels. Just kind of feels icky to us.
Yeah, things get very icky, messy. I went through in 2021, I had a little like cyst from my neck removed. Oh my gosh. I was so lit up about health insurance and the medical world during all of that because first of all, I didn't get a biopsy of it because I knew I wanted it removed because it was visible. It was a lump like on my neck. And, by feeling and the different doctors, whatever, they're like, this is probably totally benign from whatever. Talked to my dad. Even I was like, yeah, it probably is benign, but I did want it gone. So because I was going to have it removed, I never did get a biopsy. I didn't want to risk infection if I was just like, test it after it gets out, Anyway, so that being said, I did not know what it was and say it was cancerous. It was something like horrible. The fact that I was getting just brushed aside and people were like losing my information, not like saying they were going to email it to this specialist and getting my scans to this person and that no one was communicating with anyone and and people were saying, yeah, we'll do it. And it truly wasn't done. I had to literally show up to places and say, I want it in my hands. Like I need it. I had to sign certain papers that I could have my own information. Like it was a wild goose chase for something that luckily ended up being totally benign and it was fine, whatever. But I'm like, first of all, I have the time to call and run around town. And so I'm like, I'm grateful that I had that time. I have the knowledge of like what I have from like my parents, how I grew up. I also do know that this is probably okay and benign, but there's going to be someone else in my same situation who's like, doesn't have the time, has kids running around, has to work a full-time job, who doesn't understand that, the medical like system is not working for you. And, and it got me so lit up because I was like, this could literally be someone's literal life on the line.
And then to have that extra stress on top of that, if you do have,
I was just so lit up. I was like,
sure,
I'm going to be okay. But if I was somebody else, this potentially, you could literally have somebody's life on your hands. Like the fact that you just aren't pushing any of this through, but it was falling through the cracks every step of the way. All my stuff was like falling through the cracks. Like it was insane.
If you don't know how the system works and how you have to push and advocate for yourself, you will fall through the cracks. And I wonder also, like a less health literate person, what do they even do?
It made me sad. Like it made me upset because I was like, it made me want to like advocate for people. And it like, I've always been so about, like I said, like kind of the crunchy side of it, but this kind of lit up the medical side in kind of a different way where I was like, people need to know, like they need to keep fighting. Like, nobody's going to do it for them. And anyway, so obviously I'm very passionate about it because I was just like somebody else, it would be different for somebody else, you know, like I know that it's worth fighting for. And people who aren't like, health literate or know what even the doctors are saying. Like I could read what the doctor was writing up and stuff and I could understand because I also know what to Google, but also I have my dad. Like I had him go through like the doctor's notes and stuff just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. So anyway, such a side tangent, but I wanted to share like even that because I know people can get so overwhelmed, but it's worth finding people like you even like where it's like, okay, there are people who care and it's worth finding the people who are going to have your best interest in mind. So yeah, again, this is all just to say I really appreciate what you guys do. And I know you talked about how what was it? Was it glucose or the metabolic health?
Yeah,
has been something super
together.
important to you guys right now. It's something that you're like really passionate about. So I want to give you the opportunity to talk about it. So what is it? What are, like, why are you so passionate about this?
About glucose monitoring?
Yes.
It's the coolest, most fun and interesting, like, personal experiment to do.
There's literally 0 health conditions or symptoms that will not be improved in some way to some degree
by improving
your metabolic health.
Yeah. And okay, so for those who don't know, what is metabolic health? What does that mean?
That is how your body is able to process the carbohydrates in your diet, turn them into glucose, and get that into cells.
Okay, cool. Love that.
It's taking like what you eat on a regular basis and using it to fuel you. Like what happens? So
have you done the continual?
Yeah.
You have one?
Yeah, I have one on right now.
Okay. How often do you do it?
I think in the perfect world, I think everyone should do at least like 2 on an annual basis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sensors, they just came out with a new one that is 15 days. The longest lasting sensor was 14 before. So basically a month every year of giving yourself a hard reality check of if the things that you're fueling your body with are actually working for you or against you. And it gives you an opportunity to tweak things and to do better. And I'm sorry, like if you are getting labs done every year and your fasting glucose is 97 one year, then 98 the next year, then 99 the next year, and then you go and it's 102 and your doctor's telling you, oh my goodness, all of a sudden you are pre-diabetic.
Right.
I'm sorry, but you didn't all of a sudden become pre-diabetic. It happened slowly over time. And we can prevent so much suffering and so much damage to your body when we look at things so much earlier.
Yep.
And we look at what's going on and the trends and how you're responding to the foods you eat. And we can course correct before any damage is done.
Yeah.
So, like, should we be waiting until someone's fasting glucose is 102 to start doing something? No, I would rather be having this conversation when it's 92.
Yeah. Blood sugar is something that's been in my sphere for a long time. A little just backstory. I went to an anatomy camp when I was like 16 years old. Okay. It was so cool. I really recommend finding little things like that for your kids when they're like teenagers. Cause like I got to work on a cadaver. It was sick.
Yeah.
And this is, again, I'm 31. So 16 years old, maybe 15. And it was just so cool. But we got to do blood sugar, like glucose levels. We did like fasting and then we all had ice cream. It was crazy.
It's a fun experiment.
It was a fun experiment.
For sure.
But when I did that, I don't even remember what the numbers were at this point, but I remember being like, I'm not in the range. Like I'm not where I need to be. So fast forward, I ended up, I'm like hypoglycemic. I was hypoglycemic, maybe a saline, but I kind of just take care of it. So it's fine. And my dad's side of the family, there's like diabetes, like crazy. So it's something like I really wanted to be aware of. And I'm pretty sure my blood sugar was just like really, really low in the morning. And then afterwards, after the ice cream, it was like high, but it was, anyway, I got a glucose monitor for that. I like, I prick my finger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that from 16 for like a year, really, like a year and a half. And it was definitely all over the place at the time. And I felt it too. Like even to this day, I have it rarely, but I call it like blood sugar attacks, which is basically it's just a drop. Like my blood sugar drops really low, whatever. but during the season of my life when I was like 15, 16, 17, it was at its like all-time worst it ever was. And I remember at one point, like my blood sugar got down to like 30. And that was like so scary. I'd like passed out in my closet. So like I checked it.
Yeah.
It was,
that's not good.
No, that was very bad. And so I went paleo at like 17 years old, and that helped regulate me, but I was low always. I was like 80 always, which is fine. But then anytime I would have any sugar or any, like even like a little fizzy drink of any kind, whatever, it would just like, I would skyrocket then. So it took me, and this is just my personal experience, but it took my blood sugar and kind of regulated me at a low level. But then I wasn't able to process, like if I had carbs ever, because that's, you don't have that on, like, not really in the paleo diet. Like you don't have like grains and whatever.
Sure.
So anytime that I would, my blood sugar would go so high, and it would stay high for a long time. And I didn't think I had that before I went paleo. I think I was just kind of always hypoglycemic. And so I kind of created a new problem for myself when I completely cut out carbs. Because anytime I would add it back in, it was like, I was more all over the place. Cause then I was like, okay. So then I was reaching into a pre-diabetic place in my life. And that was scary. Hated that. Then I went vegan for 8 years.
Wow.
So
it's a long time.
It was a long time. I am like I'm like a year and a half into not being vegan. And it is great. Love not being vegan anymore. So, I mean, everybody's got a different opinion on that, but it was actually in the years that I was, I don't think I kind of vary on how I feel talking about it, like advocating for different kind of diets, if you will, at different times of your life, because I do think there was benefits to me going paleo at the time. There's benefits for the time I was vegan. I think by the last year and a half, 2 years of being vegan, my body was like, hey, like it's time to
There's
not
a little
be.
something that I'm missing.
There was something missing. I felt it intuitively. There was just a whole like bodily thing. I knew I was going to try to have a baby within the next year and a half. So I was like, just felt it a call. Anyway, again, this is my story time, but I do think going vegan helped me regulate myself back into eating carbs. But then after several years, it was basically all carbs because I was getting hungry for meat. So I was doing alternative meats and those things, and I hadn't allowed myself to eat meat or eggs that I was craving or anything like that. So now being a regular, like I have a regular diet. It's primarily whole foods diet, but it's just all food.
Perfect.
I feel good, and I feel like I can regulate myself so much more. I am almost immediately gained the like 5 pounds I'd been wanting to gain, because I was just under, for my comfort level, underweight, just slightly. I just felt it. I was like, I don't want to feel frail, and I immediately gained like 5 pounds, which was awesome. And for somebody who's like, I've always been like the same weight, it was a big achievement for me. And now I've gained like 10 pounds and I'm like, I'm comfy. Like, that's good. I like that. And blood sugar has always been something I've just been aware of. And now, again, I mean, I want you guys to talk about it, but I'm so big on protein and fiber. Getting in fats, like I get it from a lot of like olive oil. I force myself like every day to take a handful of nuts, because I don't like nut butter, nuts, anything like that. It's not really my thing. Avocados are very much a miss for me because I buy them and they go bad with it. I just can't. I don't have a good luck. I don't have good luck with it.
Good avocados in Tennessee.
I can't. And it's like too much money I'm spending and just wasting on avocados.
Yeah.
So I'm like, anyway, all that to say, it's something I'm really passionate about. I'm trying to get my husband to be more mindful of his blood sugar, because he's got diabetes on his side of his family as well. And he's definitely more of a carb sugar person. Like for me, being paleo was actually kind of easy because that's more so my preferred diet of just taste wise. And so anyway, I'm trying to get him to be more protein and fiber forward. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of share that it's something I'm passionate about as well, which is why when I saw that you guys are really into that, I think it's kind of the cornerstone of health right now.
Yeah. The reason we're such huge advocates of
it.
that is that it's just such a unique, like truly unique individual experience.
Yeah.
Because we don't react to food in the same way.
Yeah.
Like all three of us can eat the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Weighed out portions, exact, this and that, same protein, fat, calories. And we can all have different experiences from it.
Yeah.
And some of those experiences, like there are some rules that kind of hold true in metabolism, very simple carbs, sugars, they're going to make your blood sugar go up. Like that's just, we know that.
Yeah.
However, some people can eat, a balanced meal with like protein, fiber, and some rice and tolerate that just fine. And other people can't tolerate that small amount of rice at all.
Yeah.
But maybe they can have potatoes and do just fine.
Right.
That other person that tolerated the rice, they could eat potatoes and have their blood sugar just shoot sky high.
Yeah.
And you really just don't know until you look.
Yeah. Well, I've also feel like I can tell by the way I feel. I would love to do a continual glucose
It's super
monitor.
fun.
Like I would nerd out. I mean, I have the Aura Ring, like anything that's like gonna give me any sort of information. Like I love. I do know like processed wheat is not like I don't like the way it feels. Like
you don't do well with it. Yeah.
Rice, great. Potatoes, great. And typically my carbs, like how I feel best is in the closer to the evening. If it's like in the morning or like even the afternoon, for some reason, it just doesn't, I'm just not even that interested in it. It's like for dinner time, I'm like, I want my rice. I want to fill up that, like, I don't know, it feels like comforting and nurturing. But yeah, if I have like a bagel or something, or like even noodles for lunch, I'm like not feeling good later. Like I will likely have, because I don't have a glucose monitor on me anymore, I don't know which direction it is, but I'm like, blood sugar, not good. Whether I'm high and I can't get it down, or it's like now I'm bottoming out, which I think is probably more so is I'm going down low.
One of the really interesting things that you can see when you do a glucose monitor is just eating the same meal at different times of the day are going to give you a completely different response.
That's so fascinating.
Like there's things that I can eat in the morning and barely have the tiniest little blip. But if I ate it in the evening, I would have a huge spike.
Interesting.
Like exact same portion, exact same foods.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you can tolerate something fine at dinner time, but what if you were so busy and you're running around kid activities and you just say, okay, I'll just eat something after the kids are in bed. And then you eat dinner at 9:00. That's also going to have a completely different glucose response.
Yeah.
Your body is meant to do awake activities like during daylight hours.
Yeah.
Awake activities like
eating.
Yeah. And your body makes the appropriate awake hormones at awake times and asleep hormones at asleep times.
Yeah.
And so you don't have the necessary enzymes and hormonal response to process meals that are eaten late at night.
Yeah. That's so fascinating. Same meal, different times, different results.
Yep.
So for my personal experience, eating carbs in the evening is good, but I'm also generally a little more active even in the evening. During the day, like I'm working on my computer, like I am kind of more sedentary, even though like I try to get myself to move around. I do think I also go on a walk after dinner most evenings. So I do think like that helps.
Absolutely.
So it's like I'm already like using the fuel from the carbs and whatever. That is so fascinating. So have you worked with people that you have changed their like hormones based off of like glucose and like where their blood sugar's at?
I mean, that's what's so cool about using the monitor is it's real time info. So you can have it on for a few days and just, just live your life doing what you normally do, track it, like write down what you are eating and doing. And then you can kind of start to see like, okay, where do problems pop up? Or what kind of experiments do you want to try?
Yeah.
Do you want to see which carbs you do best with? Do you want to see what happens when you sleep really well at night?
Yeah.
And when you go to bed super late and get up early? Because those look really different.
Yeah, totally. I can't process. My blood sugar is horrible. If I don't get like good sleep is so, I think it's crucial for everyone, but I've been a sleeper. Like that's my thing. Like all my friends know, like I'm not like a night owl or early bird. Like I just need my amount of hours of sleep.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And if I get less than what's good for me, the day of eating, I feel terrible. I feel like I'm just all over the place with my blood sugar.
And you are.
Yeah.
Because the hormones that regulate your desire to eat or your satisfaction after a meal, they are highly, highly sleep dependent.
Yeah.
And if you're up all night, you are going to have higher levels of the hormone that makes you want to snack and crave carbs. And this can make a lot of problems as people get into a cycle of snacking, and when you're sleep deprived, you're typically not making the best choices either. And it's just this,
and your body like will
cycle.
signal, like your brain will be like, well, for me, like I need, I want sugar. Like like you get that craving. You're like, I want that chocolate because I need this like immediate like kick to be like back online again. And I'm like, as much as that, if I'm like really craving like a chocolate in the middle of the day, I'm like, all right, what protein and fiber can I eat when I eat my like cookie or like whatever it is? But it's hard because that's not what you're necessarily craving at the moment. But I'm like, if I can like pair it.
Exactly.
You feel like that's like an advice that you're able to give people, like just pair it.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Food combining is one of the most powerful free tools that you have to protect your metabolic health.
Yeah.
Food combining and the order that you're eating foods. If you're eating your carbs first on an empty stomach, it's going to like shoot you through the moon.
Yeah. So then what do you recommend to people?
Yeah. So eat some vegetables, eat some protein and fat, and then eat your carbs. And it's going to reduce the impact of the carbohydrate component of a meal, sometimes as much or more than what some of the medications used for diabetes do.
That's amazing.
So, and that's so cool. Like it's free. This is free
and
things that anyone can do.
Risk free. There's no side effects. Like
my friend, she was a working event and there was food out on a table at this event, and she went for, I knew she hadn't like eaten all day, and she went for like this like a miniature cupcake thing, and I was like, girl, there's like little charcuterie things. I was like, eat this first. I was like, you got to eat some meat and broccoli. I made her eat some meat and broccoli, and I was like, and you can have your cupcake.
Yes.
But I was like, you're literally gonna, because she hadn't eaten all day. I was like, you're gonna crash. Like, and I know her hormones are all over the place too. So yeah, I'm always like, you don't need to eat less of what you want. Just eat things that go with it that'll help your body so you can eat the things that you want,
Yes.
And I'm trying to teach my husband that.
Preach it. I love it.
Okay. So I know we are almost out on time, but I really appreciate you guys so much for like being here and sharing your passions. Like I said, I'm passionate about it as well. Health is probably my top like priority, not just because I'm in my trying to conceive era, because it just always has been. Like I've always been so interested in this. This did not start as a health podcast, but it has it started as whatever I'm passionate about, and it has just come to the forefront that like these are the conversations I want to have. These are the things I'm passionate about. I feel like everybody's life gets better when their health gets better. Yes. Even their connection to, because we talk about spirituality and relationships as well. Relationships get better when your mind is working better. Your spiritual connection feels more like fulfilled whenever you feel like you are one with nature and can be one with nature and are using nature to help you live your best life. And so it's all interconnected to me. And I think it is for everyone, and they may not know it.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more.
So is there anything that's going on with your business that you're excited about? Any like new ventures? I know you're on the precipice of the potential working with the labs and getting like a better
Yes. I
price
mean,
there,
we're
but-
ordering labs for our patients now, and we anticipate very soon that we will be able to offer
any day.
our patients to
Amazing.
have discounted pricing.
That's awesome.
It's just the tech stuff that the lab company has to do
Yeah.
for it to be set up to our account. But contracts are signed. It
Wow.
is done. So
Okay, so it's
we're
soon.
really happy that we're going to be able to serve people that aren't able to have insurance pay for their labs
Yeah.
in a more financially responsible way for them.
That is awesome.
So that's there. I guess since we've been talking about metabolic health, that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I think is a really great stepping stone into the world of holistic health.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And we see that and we're passionate about it. So we are doing these low cost appointments to help people get set up with a continuous glucose monitor.
That's so cool.
Get our book all about the different hacks and how to understand the data that you have, what to do with it.
Wait, a book? Like you're writing a book? Or
So
is a book?
it's
did
like a
write a
little
book.
mini
It's like
guide
a small book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
that we offer to everyone that's doing continuous glucose monitor appointments.
So it's basically
And-
everything you need, like how your monitor works, tips and tricks to use it, experiments that you can do on yourself, and like where to go if you need more help.
Now, for people who have like a family history of diabetes or anything like that, is that something that have you seen health insurance help pay for that specifically, the glucose monitor, or no?
It
Your
depends.
insurance paying for the monitor is like it's a total crapshoot. I mean, for everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine paid for mine.
Okay.
Not all of it.
Yeah.
But they paid a large chunk of it.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Without a diagnosis or any.
Interesting.
So you don't know.
You never know.
You don't
Yeah.
know until you go there.
Yeah.
But even if you had to pay for the sensors, there are some like free coupons online you can find to get one.
Okay. Cool.
And then so to pick up another one to be able to do a full month, like it's fairly reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah. Depending on
That's
insurance, if they're going to cover the sensors themselves, it may range from like $35 per sensor to like $70 per sensor.
Oh,
if they're
that's not bad.
covering it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not astronomical.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
like this is literally the best tool that we have
Totally.
to see what's going on in your body in real time.
Okay.
Like, and then there's things like GoodRx,
yeah.
which is a prescription cost saving program.
Okay.
And you can literally go on the app and put in what prescription you're looking for, and it will show you what the cash price is at all the different locations, all the different
Okay.
pharmacies near you.
Wow.
And so you can see before you go what
Yeah.
the price might be.
Wow.
And then they can give you free discount codes too. It's
Mhm.
kind of a little bit like the lab system,
Yes.
like
Kind of like the
same
secret
drug,
society.
same pharmacy, same everything. But
Yeah.
you take them this code, and then it's a lot less expensive.
That's
Yeah.
I feel like a major benefit of working with you guys as well is that you're
We
in
know
a
the
way you're
system.
the secret society. You're like, I know
Yeah.
how to, and so you're informing them and educating people on how to.
We are
Let's do
honored
it.
to help people navigate the ridiculous medical system that
Hack
we're all
the system.
currently living under.
It's amazing. It's really incredible what you guys do. I want you to shout out like how people can find you, how they can get a hold of you and everything that you do. So go ahead.
Revivalintegrativehealth.com.
Okay.
And we're on Instagram,
Okay.
Revival Integrative Health.
Cool. And anyone from anywhere can work with you guys, or is it just those 10 states?
It's
or
those 10 states.
okay, what are those states for everyone listening? Because we got listeners everywhere.
Okay.
Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
California,
Okay.
Florida,
Tennessee.
Florida, Tennessee. Okay.
Tennessee, Virginia, Texas, Michigan, Pennsylvania,
North Carolina.
North Carolina,
Okay.
Did we say Missouri?
Missouri.
Okay, you got them. That was 10. Yeah. Wow. Okay. You heard it here. I was like, I'm impressed. I'm like, I'm going to put you on the spot. You have to remember all 10 states.
Well, it's very hard. Those are the 10 licenses we're using. We may eventually
Right.
expand
Yeah.
a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
My parents are in North Carolina, so I was like, oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And also I have family in North Carolina still as well. I have
North
a
Carolina's
brother,
great.
sister-in-law. I know
Mhm.
Yeah.
it is great. I'm a Carolina girl at heart. I have lived in Tennessee for 14 years, which is as long as I've lived anywhere. So I do feel like I am now from Tennessee. But I did grow up in North Carolina, and yeah, I love it. It's just the Carolina mountains, and I grew up in the foothills of the mountains. So
Nice.
kind of a mountain girl.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for being on Curiosity today. I will keep you guys posted when this comes out. But yeah, thank you guys so much for spending your time with me today.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks guys for listening. And until next time, bye.